Hello, my name is Rodina Hughes, and we will be talking about my inquiry study, the benefits of pre teaching vocabulary. Just a little bit about myself. I've been an educator for nearly 2 decades, and I've had the pleasure of serving in charter, private, and public school sectors. Most of the students that I have worked with look very similarly to me. Um, However, in 2022, I had an opportunity to work as a reading interventionist for Duval County. And so I got the job in a little elementary school. And when I got there, most of the students were uh, Hispanic. There were a large Esau population. And this was the very first time that I've had experience working with Esau students. So it kind of presented just a minor challenge for me. Um, I wanted to find ways to help them to learn. And so this this inquiry study was perfect because it gave me an opportunity to research evidence based practices that have proven to become successful in the past. So, a little bit of context and relevance. So, our demographic is Hispanic, we have Asian, Hawaiian, and we also have just a small percentage of American Indian. This graph here on the left represents the blue represents the district, and the green represents our current school. And as you can see, we have over half of our demographic is part of the Hispanic descent. Now, when we look at the correlation between our demographics and our test scores show that majority of our students, over half of our students, are performing significantly below grade level according to the FAST state assessments. And so, thinking about how can I help these ESOL students, how can I help our students as a whole become better readers, that's kind of where the premise of teaching vocabulary to help build background knowledge came about. During our research of our literacy burst, I found an article that really set the foundation in motion for this study, and the title is "Teaching Vocabulary to ESOL Students." McBain, who was the author, he actually discussed the challenges that ESOL students face in acquiring this new language. Mastering syntax and grammar and the contextual meanings and the nuances that are specific to the English language. He also suggested that students must feel a sense of self and a sense of self worth in order to help them be successful in this journey of acquiring new language. And he suggested that effective vocabulary instruction should encourage students to develop their metacognition skills, allowing them to self regulate in this vocabulary learning process. We know that reading plays a very crucial role in vocabulary development. And exposure to diverse texts helps students to encounter new vocabulary, and it also allows them to have a better understanding of understanding the text at hand. So, in addition to studying that article on McBain, I also wanted to think about and research what evidence based practices have been successful in the past. And this took me on a whole new learning journey. I also had the experience of having just a couple day a week training on GLAD, and GLAD stands for Guided Language Acquisition Design or Development. And so some of the strategies that I found that were proven to be a success in the past are presented here. Activating prior knowledge, which is the schema theory. It allows students to be able to connect new words to their background. And it also uses cognates to serve as a bridge to their first language and the English language that they're learning. We also did a lot of work around providing comprehensive input, which allowed me to present the visual images, making sure students um, are able to understand. So we did a lot of breaking uh, things into smaller chunks to make it more digestible for students. We also did a lot of multi modality in our teaching, from our videos, our TPR, which stands for total physical response, hands-on chance, and the repetition, just allowing students to see the information more than once, also proved itself to be successful. We also did a lot of work around creating meaningful interactions, allowing students to have academic discourse, and providing think pair shares and sentence frames to help kind of guide them on their journey. We also focused again a lot on the cognates. This was extremely helpful when we had Latin roots like agua, which means water. And so the students really found that to be helpful. We provided daily structured conversations for these interactions of these new words. And we made sure to create a print rich environment so that if students kind of forgot or needed some sort of reinforcement, they could look around the classroom and instantly see, oh, you know, hydrate or hydro means water. And so we also had students to write a little bit. And this later uh, kind of challenged me because I know that students need a lot of practice with this. So this was something that was revealed during this study. We did a lot of guided practice work, which also proved to be successful. Now, our action plan, week one, we looked at reading surveys to be able to determine well how students really felt about reading. And then we had our very first interaction with Greek and Latin root word parts. Greek and Latin root word parts were selected because in our study I focused on fifth grade, and fifth graders on their fast assessment, the benchmark V1.2, it covers about between 25 and 35% of the FAST assessment. So I was purposeful in selecting words or roots that students would be exposed to on their FAST assessment so that they would feel comfortable learning this, but then also they'll have an advantage as they're taking their FAST upcoming assessment. Week two, we focused on really getting into interaction, word meaning. And week two again revealed that misconception that students really need additional support with writing. And so them being able to connect the syntax, the grammatical nuances proved itself here. And so week three, I just went back to the basics because I now needed to know, or I wondered, well, when did students come to America, and how much of their first language had they already had experience with academically speaking? And so week three, we didn't have, week three, it really revealed that students came around first or second grade. So they didn't have a whole lot of exposure in their very first language. Week four, we just continued in that repetition, allowing students to play games that would help them retain the Greek and Latin root word parts. And so I'm going to give a quick snapshot to help document all of the planning. I created a Padlet, and this Padlet will also serve as a way for the teachers that I service in this dual role as a reading interventionist. It'll give teachers the opportunity, or anyone, to kind of see what what we did week by week, and just kind of the reflection of all. So week one, again, we talked about those reading interest surveys, and I asked students, how does reading make you feel? And this really revealed a lot of how students felt about reading in English. And one student says, I don't like it much because students laugh at me. Another student says, well, I feel more comfortable with interacting with things in Spanish more so than English. And lastly, a student said, well, because I just don't know how to do it, it's very difficult for me. And so part of week one's wonderings was, you know, if I were to teach vocabulary, would it be enough? Would it be enough to change the narrative? Because students dislike reading so much. And so again, those were just some of the wonderings. Week two, we looked again, those exit tickets, being able to determine what additional support that students needed. And week three calls me to also do a little bit more research on what evidence based practices in writing would be beneficial for students who are classified as ESOL. And so I used some of the strategies to help me um, to continue with that. And so a little bit more practice is certainly needed. And so week three, we looked at again that entry data where students fail. And again, it just allowed me to really see that students didn't have a lot of support, a lot of academic support in their first language. So they were basically coming um, into us into schools basically at ground zero. So week four, really, again, that evidence based strategy of exposure, repetitiveness, and student discourse. And so this is kind of where we fell here right after spring break. Some of the challenges working as a reading interventionist. I I pull students during small groups, so there might be times where the students are participating in their whole group lesson and it may run over, or I might be needed for an assessment. And so, one of the biggest challenges in this role was time, but I made sure whenever the students and I, when we met, that I would go back and I would uh, refresh their refresh their memory with what we had previously done. And this was helpful to have so many anchor charts and our word tree visible so that students could instantly go back and refer. Um, in week five, again, we were building. Each week we build, and so week three we participated in a time vocabulary matching, and we also completed a quick quiz. And so the quick quiz revealed itself that the students were actually learning, uh, and and I was thoroughly impressed. And one of my biggest reflection is the power of repeated exposure in those students being able to make those meaningful connections to the task at hand, but then also being able to connect it to other parts of their lives with those cognates as well. So, part of my data and my findings, this paragraph here, it just revealed that 72% of those students um, were were born in those Spanish-speaking countries, and when they came to the United States, they were already well within those formative years. So, most of them, again, did not have the academic foundation in their native language. So, when they came to the United States, they were um, they were already at a disadvantage. And so here under the purple are my field notes. Field notes were critical throughout the study because it gave me just a quick snapshot of where students were, and it helped to guide me to their next steps. And here's some additional data findings. We this under the purple basically was our quick quiz that the students worked on. I did a non-invasive grading scale. I put a heart, a triangle, or a square on the student's paper. And basically, the square let me know that students needed some prompt and a little support. The heart meant that the students were able to complete these tasks independently, absent of any of my help. And the triangle proved that the students really needed support from that they were unable to complete this at all. And here, my tower of three, it allowed me to gauge where students were based on their feelings of how well they thought they understood the Greek and Latin root word parts that we had done so far. And this honestly revealed a little bit more about, again, how students felt, because I would have at least thought that I had two experts based on the hearts that they received on their independent assignment. But those students says, hey, Miss Hughes, I understand it a little, but I still need a little bit of guided support. And here, on the teal background, this is our reading curriculum unit assessment, and it shows that our students, when they first took their assessment, they were at a 41%, and when they took the final assessment, they were at a 50 or 56%. So clearly, I could see that the students were learning throughout this. And so as I close, or in my summary, one of my biggest takeaways was the power of the evidence-based strategies and being able to use those with fidelity and being consistent. And the power of student connections and student voice. Those students being able to connect their learnings proved itself to be powerful, not only in my teaching world, but in also theirs. And in conclusion, that this teaching and learning process is just that, it is a process, and and it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes planning. So the next steps for me would be to continue this work. However, on a grander scale, I would like to push out that Padlet to the teachers so that they could see, and then I would also challenge the teachers to create a Padlet, so that they're able to document their own mini inquiry study. Um, this was a wonderful study, and I am privileged that I had the opportunity to work with students in teaching pre teaching vocabulary.